Hi everybody, nice to meet you all. This is a company that I founded back in 2020. Used to be the third largest gold producer in northern Chile. We acquired the asset wholly from COPEC, which is the largest conglomerate in Chile. They do about 24 billion a year. They were exiting gold and investing 950 million in a copper project right next to my old copper project in Peru. And I thought we wanted exposure for our family and our investors in gold space. The beauty about Choquelimpie is A, we own 100%, B, it's a mine that was in production where the infrastructure was kept on care and maintenance. So we've inherited a lot of infrastructure, which I'll talk about, and it was a third largest gold producer, and there's a lot of resources that were left in the ground when we first acquired it that we had to bring up to compliance here. Myself and my family, we're aligned with our investors. We've got 9.3 million hard dollars invested in the company. We own about 24.5%, and we recently raised 6 million, all from strategics on a non-brokered basis, and brought in the likes of Rob McEwen, who's a mining legend, billionaire. We brought in Paul Matizik, who sold $3 billion of mining companies. Larry Lepard, a very famous fund manager in the United States. Quentin Henning, a really smart technical guy, fell in love with the project, invested in that, brought in Crescat, and we have Victor Cantori, is a very well-known mining executive in Canada. So most of our investors are very long-term strategic investors. The project itself, over 140,000 meters, actually 143,000 meters drilled, and we're about to drill next week. 1,710 drill holes in the project so far. We've got presidential decrees on mining permits, so we're already permitted. We just got to do a little bit of hard work for the next year on the environmental side to get to the point where we can go back into production again. We've got two types of mineralization. We have some mineralization sitting right on the floor called stockpiles that are very easy liberated, have a low cost to produce, and we already have a 3,000 ton a day mill. We have leach pads, we have ADR effluent plants, so we have all the equipment to turn on the taps and start producing gold in this wonderful $4,000 gold market. We also have a larger deposit at depth, which we'll talk a little bit about. We're in a stable jurisdiction. Chile's #1 copper producer in the world. They're announced in July that they're going to expedite permitting mines. They're going to fast track them by up to 70%. So they're really pro building new mines, bringing in new cash flow into the country. And we're also in northern Chile, which is really important. There's not a lot of mines there. There's 2 mines near us in production. We're pretty well the only big game in town. We've got regional tax benefits. We're in Arica, which is a free trade zone, duty-free zone. So for us to be able to sell the gold and transact offshore with the gold and retain earnings offshore, there's some very sophisticated opportunities which increase our IRR. Don't want to get into that, but it's a great benefit to have. The project, as I mentioned, has infrastructure. We've got a 35-man camp we had to refurbish. We've got the 3,000 ton a day mill. We've got ADR effluent plant. We've got power. We've got roads, which are very expensive to construct, that we've inherited about $175 million of infrastructure, according to our engineers, and David Lang, the famous gentleman who originally put it in production for Shell back in the days, in the late 80s, early 90s. We've got an initial resource of 2.74 million ounces of gold. That was drilled in the first 70 meters of the project. And this project is called a high sulfidation epithermal system. I know that may sound Chinese to most people, but anybody technical would understand that those type of systems go down 300 meters. So one of the theses we had was, hey, let's go from 70 meters, let's drill down 300 meters, and we can pretty well quadruple the size of the project. So we're out there saying that we want to build this resource out to 7.5 to 9 million ounces, which is world-class territory. 5 million and up is what you probably heard today from other people, where the big boys like to go shopping. We've got our drill program. Our phase 3 drill program is basically underway. We'll be drilling next week, which is a very important time for retail investors, exciting time, going to be generating news over the next quarter. And we're going to be doing about 20 holes down to 300 meters, testing our mineralization at depth. We previously did that and proved up that it does go down 300 meters, the gold mineralization, which I'll show you a little bit about. And then to complicate things, what drove all the gold and silver in the project to surface is an engine. And that engine is typically called a porphyry system, like a gold porphyry, which we have one in the north, or a copper gold porphyry, which we have in the south. Copper porphyry is my actual expertise, which is probably why I was on the copper panel instead of gold, but I'm a gold guy now. But so we have 2 of these engines on our circuit, which is a very big system to begin with, and sometimes porphyries occur in clusters, so there could be more even. This is just a photo of our plant, our core shack. We have all the core on site, and we're in northern Chile, which abuts Peru. And basically there's a big copper belt and mineralized belt coming from Peru right into Chile. As I mentioned earlier, Chile's expedited the permitting process. This is our resource. We've got 2.1 million ounces of gold in the indicated category, and then we've got another 500,000 ounces in the inferred category, so it's already ready for pre-feasibility study. It's been really drilled out. Our strategy is a bit different than most companies you hear about today. Most companies are heading to production, which we are, or trying to drill out a resource. So we've got 2 strategies that we're going down the path, which is our oxide, which is near surface, very low cost, like $300 to $500 an ounce to produce in a really $35,000, $4,000 ounce market. We're doing a lot of metallurgical testing right now, column leach testing, to try and increase our recoveries from 80 to 89, 90%. Our plant needs a little bit of TLC, and we'll have a report out at the beginning of November of what that cost is. And so when people ask, what's your CapEx, Mark? It's not 100 million, we already have that. It's probably a couple $1 million, and not very challenging for us to put this back into production. We are going through the regulatory process now, doing environmental studies, which are boring, but we got to get them done. And then in 2026, we have identified a zone of another 450,000 ounces of oxide near surface that we're going to drill out and grow our oxide resource larger, so we can continue that production cycle for many more years. We'll also be doing a PEA for the production side in 2026, and we plan to be in production in 2027, which in the mining world, being in production in the next 18 or 24 months is very short term, because most projects short term are up to 5 years away. All the while we're drilling out resource expansion, which is what the investors want today. They want to see you grow and pull out great drill holes and great results. So we're drilling 20 holes at 300 meters, diamond drill holes into the main heart of the project to take that 2.74 million ounces to the next level, where we feel we can get it to 5 million plus with this next drill campaign. We've got priority holes. We have, in our project, one thing that's unique about the project, and Don Durrett, one of the guys that covers us, pointed out to me, he's like, Mark, I see projects all the time, and in your sub 100 million market cap, and there's like 5 projects that have 1, 2, or maybe 3 world-class drill holes already in them. Yours has 5. And the 5 of them are in different zones, and I'll show that a little bit later, but that was something that's very exciting to note in the project. And we'll be drilling those zones to add a lot of high-grade gold to increase our overall grade, and also the volume, the amount of gold that we have. We are applying for an expanded permit for next year for drilling, because we want to really drill out. We're targeting to drill 30,000 meters next year and really get this into a feasibility situation. 2026, update the resource estimate, as I mentioned. We'll be doing some deeper infill drilling, targeting our copper porphyry and our gold porphyry to add more mineralization and better define what that potential copper opportunity is that we have. This is our stockpiles from a production standpoint. There's 11 stockpiles that we just have to truck over to the plant and produce gold from it. This is our drill plan. I don't want to get into too much technical, but as you can see, there's a bunch of different, wherever you see the holes are different existing pits. So we're drilling all over the project. This is basically a long cross section. So you can see the holes in the project are generally 70-meter holes, and there is a few at 100. Our holes are down 300 meters, and we've done holes at 300 meters and hitting mineralization all the way down. And so that purple or pink anomaly is a magnetic high. So that's where all the good stuff is, and it still goes deeper. So we'll be doing this drill program, and one of the things about all our holes are angled. From the past, the holes were straight, so we have to drill angle and connect a couple of dots, a couple of holes, and then we can add all the volume in the middle. So that's an easy way for us to get back to 5+ million ounces without really finding more ounces technically, otherwise at depth. This is called the hydrothermal breccia pipe. It's one of the drill holes we did. We took a little bit of a risk, which we drilled on the outside of hydrothermal breccia pipe. That probably hosts about 1 million ounces. We want to figure out, is that a cylinder or is that a cone? So we're going to scissor that, and we'll get really good intersections and find the ending of that to determine how wide, what the width is. At the top, it's 70 meters, which is a pretty insane width for hydrothermal breccia pipes. So here's the juice. We've got Vizcacha is our high-grade gold zone, and there's a gold porphyry in Vizcacha, and it protrudes to surface. So if you look, there's a drill hole A327 where we've got 35 meters at 32.2 grams of gold, 8 grams of silver. That's a world-class 1,000-meter hole. It ends in mineralization, starts at surface. We want to drill down 300 meters. And you know, for retail investors or any investors, if we pull even 70 meters, never mind about 200-300 meters of that, it'll be one of the bigger holes that you can pull out of South America, and obviously would have a positive impact on our stock, and we'd be in business. All the holes in that area you can see are double-digit gold primarily, and with low-grade silver. So those are very high grades, all at surface, and the mineralization does extend to depth. We just got to drill to figure out how deep that goes. Choquelimpie is our main pit, and you can see we've got 120 meters of 4 grams. We've got 90 meters of 4 grams. We've got 70 meters of 4 grams. Those are all world-class holes that are north of, some people say 200 gram meters or 500 gram meters. I don't care what number you use. Those hit, and those all end in mineralization. So we want to drill down 300 meters. If I pull 300 meters of 4 grams of material, that adds a lot of volume, obviously, and probably would get a lot of attention from people. And then finally, Surrey, you can see we've got 2 to 26, we've got 24 meters of 35.1 grams of gold with 137 grams of silver, ending in mineralization. So we want to drill in there. So you got 3 different zones with world-class holes in them that need to be tested to depth to add very high grade. So we're going to be doing a high impact, adding a lot of volume and a lot of grade to the overall deposit. And we'll talk about one of the holes we did in ourselves in Choquelimpie, where we hit copper mineralization at the bottom, but the hole itself was basically another world-class hole that's not on this. This is just a magnetic anomaly showing what's below and where the previous drill holes were. This is from Vizcacha. For anybody technical, those are stringer veinlets, and that's a gold. You're looking at gold porphyry, which is the northern part of our project. So there's one of the holes that we did at the last campaign, one of our last holes, our glory hole, I'll call that, is where we cross right through the hydrothermal breccia pipe. We've proven that the pipe is actually twice as wide as what you see on the picture here. You've got a 170-meter intersection of 1.6 grams of gold, not even including the copper. And at the bottom, you've got 94 meters of 2-gram gold equivalent, which is a phenomenal hole. You've got over 200 grams, you got close to 200 meters of 2 grams. It's a world-class hole. We drilled that. The bottom of the hole, which is the most exciting thing we weren't expecting for, and everybody gives us shit for, why didn't you keep on drilling? We weren't looking. So the bottom of the hole, 969 meters of 5.4, 3 grams of gold with 50 to 100 grams of silver, and bingo, 1% copper grades. So we believe we hit something called a cupola, which is the top of a copper porphyry. We were not expecting to hit that. It should be 100, 200 meters deeper. And that's why we didn't continue drilling, but we'll go back and test that and see whether we're correct or not. But overall, this is all open at depth, open along strike, and we're pretty excited to be able to define a lot more resource in this area. This is where the boundaries of our project are. It's a very large project, 25 square kilometers. The heart of it is 5 square kilometers. This is super important. So the area that we're exploring in is like the first half of the project. You can see there's an area called PROA. We drilled one hole there of 51 meters of 1.1 grams gold, 20 grams silver, which was a high-grade oxide discovery. We have a road there, so we're going to try to do some drilling next year there. And then there's another area called Ahoya where we ran some aerial geophysics and even Google Maps, and we saw 3 hydrothermal breccia pipes protruding from the surface. So we have to build roads and drill to that next year. But we have 8 kilometers of strike, and I was just basically earlier showing you 1.5 kilometers, 2 kilometers, where we believe there's 7.5 to 9 million ounces. Just huge upside on the project. There's some pictures of lab, plant, ADRF plant. We've got backup generators, full power to the plant, 35-man camp, which we did have to refurbish, obviously. We've got year-round water. We actually provide, there's 2 other mines, Key Borax, which is a borate producer and lithium producer in the area. We provide them water. So when people go, Mark, do you have enough water? We're like, yeah, we actually provide another mine with water. And then they cut our roads and deal with our roads. So we paid nothing for our roads, which is kind of a nice deal. Our metallurgy from the past, up to 90% recovery and 87% flotation, is excellent. There's lots of room for improvement with newer technologies. This is the local Aymara, which is indigenous. They blessed our first drill program. The lady who owns the land has owned the land forever, gets paid her rent, and the only thing she asks of us is to hire her grandchildren, which are basically the 30 and 40-year-olds in the community, to give them a better life and opportunity and education, which is obviously, we need people, so they all work for us there, which is great. So our relationship works well. The government has been very supportive of us because they know we're the only game in town. In Arica, there's 2 other mines operating. We would be the 3rd. So from a permitting process, they're kind of bored waiting for us to keep them busy and keep them working and generate some income. We also have some very unique tax credits. So any infrastructure we do advance in the future where we want to build a bigger plant and advance to a larger scale, we have 30% tax credit on anything we invest in and 40% on real estate. So if we had to build a 100-man camp, and there's also some very unique exemptions from duties and taxes. So there's an opportunity for us to work with the guys that actually ran Endeavour Mining that are involved actually as investors in here and on our team from structuring, selling our gold tax efficiently, which is nice to have. Again, as I said earlier, advanced stage project, 143,000 meters drilled, 1,710 drill holes, and more coming up. We've got a really good quality project in a safe jurisdiction. Agnico Eagle, as mentioned, Chile's #1, Peru's #2, and Colombia's #3 publicly. They're looking for acquisitions in the area or joint ventures. They're hunting in elephant country. So great place for us to be. We've got existing opportunity to get into production in short term, and we also have that larger scale drilling campaign to develop a much larger world-class resource. And then we've got Porphyry systems. So we've got 83 million shares issued outstanding. My family and our family trust owns 24.5%. We've invested 9.3 million. I don't believe there's a junior in Canada listed at 100 million market cap or less, because I got to be careful, because I said that once publicly and I got into trouble because of McEwen Mining. He's got 200 million, but he's a billionaire. I'm not. I'm working on it, and his company's $1.5 billion. So we've got 9.3 million. We're probably the biggest investor in any sub $100 million company pre-production. So I'm aligned with my shareholders. I've had several exits. I've exited more than $1 billion of mining companies. People know me to sell. This is not the case. This is too easy to get into production and get cash flow. I don't need $1 billion or $2 billion like my last company that went into production with $2 billion. I can't raise $2 billion. I know what I can't raise. So we've got the opportunity. Recently, Rob McEwen, Paul Matizik, Crescat, Larry Lepard, Victor Cantor, Quinton Henning, who's a famous geologist. They're all famous guys. They own 8% of the company. I've got a group in Arizona and a group in Quebec that own about 10 million shares. So we owned about 60% of the company amongst 12 key guys that come into this at much higher prices, including. And then we brought in Rob McEwen, led this. So we've got about 68% held with long-term guys looking for 10, 20 times the return, and to give me the opportunity of time to get there over the next 24 to 36 months. So again, align with shareholders. My CFO was paid zero for the last 4 years. Myself, I've been paid zero for the last 4 years. I am not doing this for a paycheck. Anybody that knows me knows how I am. I'm doing this for equity. I'm doing this for a big win for my family. I'm very enthusiastic about gold. I've done very well. We'll talk a little more about myself after, but you know, this is my baby, and no one will stop me from getting to a win for me and my shareholders. Sergey Dyakov is one of the world's leading copper experts. He came on our board 2 years ago and he reviewed our data, and we were in the dumps. You know, literally the market was not there. And he said, Mark, you've got a world-class copper porphyry. I want to get involved and help you. He discovered Oyu Tolgoi, which is one of the largest copper porphyries in production today that went, well, one of. Michael Thiel is a mining engineer in Chile. He put a mine called Las Bronces. He turned it around for Anglo, which is a complicated mine, big cap. And he also put Esperanza, he drilled the first hole, 6 years later, 2.7 billion in production. That's never been done in the history of mining in South America, to have a 100,000 ton a day operation in 6 years. So he's a rock star. He's on our board. He believes this is a mine. Myself and my background, I've had over $1 billion of mining company exits, primarily in the copper, gold, silver, and coal space. So those are kind of where my expertise lies. And I've also been a founder of a unicorn, which a lot of people know me for from a different space. And we've really, I've worked for 2 billionaires in my life and mentored from them. I've been fortunate. We've done well. We're aligned always with our shareholders. And I've raised over $350 million for our companies. I'm capable to raise money. I'm very particular about my money. So some guys don't like me in the brokerage industry, but we go after mainly family office, longer term, ultra high net worth, strategic funds, or strategic investors like Rob McEwen and Paul and those type of people. So we're really particular that way. Obviously there's lots of good brokers out there. There's one in the room here, two in the room here. They're good guys, but you know, we're really particular. Three. My apologies, I haven't met you, so I didn't know. But we're very, very careful about making sure we're aligned. Art Freeze is a famous geologist that he was a primary geologist at Goldcorp, chief geologist at Wheaton River. When I first met him 20 years ago, he's involved with us. David Lang, who ran Endeavour Mining, which was a $36 billion organization. He's done $25 billion in M&A. He built this mine, and when I acquired it, I didn't know him, but I knocked on his door and said, David, I need your help. I acquired your baby. He put this in production for Shell in the 80s, and he's the one who said, hey Mark, you've inherited 175 million of infrastructure, which was good to hear from him because he's the mining engineer, I'm not. And so we've got these guys on the board. Nicholas Matizik just came on our team. He'll be doing my job because I can't be in two places at the same time, so he'll be helping out. He's a director of corporate development. He was the CEO of Snowline, which everybody knows is $1.5 billion success, and his dad's obviously the king of Sting in Canada. Basically, that's the nuts and bolts of it. I don't know if I've missed anything, but I figured I'd open up to questions if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, so with the anticipated production in 27 and where it goes in 28, do you believe that will fund the exploration, or could it? Just think about future dilution and such.
Yeah, that's the key here. I think we'll do one more raise for our next drill program, and then cash flow will basically carry us, and the cash flow we would generate from the initial stockpiles that we put in production be 40,000 ounces a year. So I don't know, whatever price you want to use on gold, and our cash cost is about $300 an ounce. You can use 500 if it makes you feel better. There's going to be too much cash flow. We wouldn't be able to spend that kind of money. Yeah. There's trouble.
What's the last company you sold in mining named? Second last.
Well, the last company I sold was called Norsemont Mining, which we sold to Hud Bay for $520 million. They invested $2 billion. It's one of the largest copper mines that went in production in Peru. It's 2/3 of their copper production. And we did some wonderful things with the community. So that's what I'm famous for, is community, because that's the guys that can stop you. And I brought two communities together, which was the most unique thing that I think I've done in my life. I prevented two communities from killing each other every year. We also exited another copper deposit, which has a bit of history here. We sold a copper deposit in Panama to Inmet Mining that then sold it up to First Quantum, and First Quantum's dealing with the Panamanian government on getting that back into production, which is good. So, 2 for 2 in production, not too bad. Anybody else, any questions? How much time? I'm done?
No, you're good.
I tried to whip through this to keep everybody entertained.
You can do one-on-ones if anyone's got it.
Sure, yeah, I'm available after. Thank you for all your time, everybody.
Thank you.